Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is Dennis Heil, and I am diagnosed with type 2 bipolar disorder with severe depression and high functioning autism. I've been living with bipolar disorder for over 30 years, 15 of which I spent undiagnosed. In 2009, I experienced a depressive psychotic break that led to my diagnosis of type 2 bipolar disorder. I would be diagnosed with autism a few years later. In my podcast, Bluntly Bipolar, I'm going to share with you my experiences and the hard lessons I've learned trying to find some peace and happiness in my life. I hope that by sharing my experiences, others can avoid learning these lessons the hard way. I'm not a mental health professional. All I am is a mental patient with a microphone. Listener discretion is advised. This is 5 Comforting Lies They Tell the Mentally Ill. In the world of mental health, we get told a lot of comforting lies. Sometimes it's to keep you from spiraling into a place you may struggle to get out of. Other times it's because people don't know what else to say. The problem is that we often have to learn the truths of them the hard way. It leaves you drastically unprepared and unable to actually navigate those problems when they come up. So, in this episode, I'm going to share 5 common comforting lies with you and how to navigate them in a better way than wishful thinking and good vibes. So, the first comforting lie is, I'll always be there for you. You know what's interesting about this phrase? In my opinion, I think the people who say it genuinely mean it when they say it. They just have no idea what they're signing up for. One thing I've learned is that empathy and sympathy tend to last only as long as your symptoms are sympathetic. But if you're scary, aggressive, or it's a recurring issue that you've been struggling with for a long time, well, that sympathy tends to dry up or not be there at all. Hell, look at celebrities with mental health issues. Even in mental health support communities, when unstable celebrities would come up, you'd still be hard pressed to find much sympathy. Instead, you get a whole lot of, they're making us look bad. Yeah, I mean, it's because mental illness is often terrible. In the bipolar world, you have a lot of folks who experience euphoria, which is far more sympathetic because it feels good and it looks good from the outside. But even then, you can see the cracks if you know where to look. Like when someone is so euphoric and disconnected from reality that they believe fairies and angels are protecting them, and they later decide to cross a highway in the middle of the night with dark clothes on for no reason that anyone can be sure of. Now, personally, I've been told always be there for you by multiple romantic partners, and none of them were, and that's okay. I'm not angry at them or think they did anything wrong anymore. I firmly believe that every single one of those women who told me that meant it in the moment. They just didn't understand what they were signing up for. And to be fair to them, I didn't either. I didn't understand what I was going through at the time to even be kind or supportive to myself, let alone accept it from someone else. I didn't understand how severe it was, or really conceptualize how awful a person my mental illness often drove me to be. I was hostile, aggressive, antisocial, paranoid. I was emotionally and psychologically abusive at times because my mental illness would convince me that they were an enemy. And not only that, but I'm a 6'4" man, and no one wants to be around a large, angry, unstable man. Now, today I have much different thoughts on the phrase, I'll always be there for you. I wouldn't want anyone to always be there for me, no matter what. I'd want the people around me to be safe first and foremost. And if that meant they had to pull away or had to force me inpatient, well, I'll forgive you when I'm sane again. If I'm sane again. Years ago, I knew a man with schizophrenia and his family. During a bad episode, he physically assaulted his wife for the first and only time. After he was coherent enough to realize what he did, he ended his life. I think about that situation often because I was afraid of doing something similar, especially after my psychotic breaks when I couldn't control my thoughts or feelings. That fear became stark and real after big psychosis flooded my brain with violence. I don't think I could live with myself either if such a situation were to ever befall me. Now, if you are someone who's going to make that promise to a mentally ill person, understand that many of us have heard that promise multiple times. If we have, we may smile and say, I believe you. But it's a hard thing to genuinely believe that and accept. At least not until we actually see how you're able to handle being around us when we aren't very lovable. Now, personally, I would never want someone to make that promise to me. I would want them to promise me that they would have boundaries and that they would prioritize their safety and try to prevent me from doing anything rash. That is far more fair, reasonable, and attainable. It's realistic. And I would like to add a caveat here. Most mentally ill people are more of a danger to themselves than anyone else. I'm talking about extreme situations because in extreme situations is where this promise usually falls apart. If you want to make this kind of promise to someone, I suggest something more like, I will be there for you to the best of my ability, but if I feel unsafe, then I'm going to keep myself safe. That's what I would want to hear. The second comforting lie is told to us by mental health professionals. With appropriate treatment, you can live a life like anyone else. Oh, is that so? So I don't need to take these antidepressants and antipsychotics then? I can live my life without concerning my moods, triggers, or stability? That statement is a paradox. I am already inherently not living a life like anyone else because other people don't need to swallow this med cocktail to stay sane. Now I have a testy relationship with the word normal largely because of this. There's so much idealization out there about how mentally ill people can live a normal life, just like anyone else, and it's not the truth. I'm not normal. I have inherited a mental illness that's killed multiple of my family members and has been trying to kill me since I was about 12 years old. I'm 46 now. Instead of giving me tools or insight to adapt to a way of life that can work for me, one in which I needed psychotherapy and medication to be sane, I instead wasted years of my life struggling with it. I wasted so much time lamenting that I wasn't like other people, and that my brain wasn't healthy, and everything that my mental illness has caused me. I also think that this comforting lie is why a lot of people with bipolar disorder struggle to stay compliant with meds after they start getting balanced, or if they've been stable for a long time. You're standing there with a fistful of pills, looking at them, asking yourself, do I really need these? I've been doing so well. Maybe I'm not really bipolar. Maybe I'm cured. Maybe I'm normal now. And the answer is no. No, I'm still bipolar. And I will be until the day I die. So I take the pills and I do the work even when I really don't want to. I consider my moods, I ensure I get sleep, and I stay away from anything that I know to be too destabilizing, because that's what I have to do to stay sane, because I know I'm not normal. I know that I can't live life like a person who does not have bipolar disorder and expect to have a good outcome. And that's okay. It doesn't make me less of a person. It doesn't make me better or worse than anyone else. It's just a fact of life. This is a problem that I inherited that I have a way to find a way to live with because I only get this life once. So I want to make the most of it. There's an idea from the philosophy of Stoicism that helped me come to terms with this. And that idea being, don't waste your time wishing for things to be any other way than what they are. Would I prefer to live a normal life like someone who doesn't have these issues? Would I have loved to see the life I could have built and accomplished if I hadn't been living with severe bipolar depression for over 30 years of my life? Yes, I would prefer all of those things. But my preferences are relevant. I don't have a choice. I am challenged to accept that which I cannot change, to paraphrase Viktor Frankl. There are many tools out there to help me understand and manage my mental illness. There's therapy, medication, support groups, online support communities, and my social circles. I may not be able to have a life like everyone else, but I can attempt to make the best of a bad situation, which is one of many reasons why you're listening to this right now. It is possible for many of us to lead a healthy, productive life if we had access to the resources and support that we need. Of course, that's difficult in the world we currently live in that chews up and spits out the disadvantaged. But it is possible. There are all kinds of different mentally ill people living all kinds of different lives. I've met people with bipolar disorder who are in politics, higher education, sciences, business owners, artists, adventurers, explorers, all the way to manual labor, retail, and the trades. Many disabled and mentally ill people can have good lives, dignified lives with appropriate support and resources. And those that can't deserve to be treated with dignity and respect regardless. And that brings me to the third lie. There is no such thing as normal. Everyone has problems. I believe that to be a counterproductive message that can set you back on your mental wellness. Yes, it is absolutely true that everyone has problems. Yes, it is true that some of those problems are more serious than others. However, there are plenty of people out there who do not carry the weight of trauma and mental illness. And honestly, having had my foot in that world before, it's so strange. It's so strange because you're not thinking, is this person going to kill themselves? Are they going to overdose? It's very different. Normal is having the ability to take care of yourself. Normal is being able to conduct your life in a meaningful way that makes sense for you. Normal is being able to do things like meet the minimum criteria in something like Maslow's hierarchy. And this message that there is no such thing as normal is used in good faith to try to instill hope or make someone feel better about being different. But it's a comforting lie that falls apart when it meets reality. It's setting a bar out of reach. Instead of trying to convince people of a reality that doesn't exist, why don't we instead focus on instilling that every human being is inherently valuable? That's a far more realistic perspective because it acknowledges the differences and challenges that we all face. My challenges are different than someone with multiple sclerosis or cerebral palsy or PTSD or whatever. Furthermore, this idea that there is no such thing as normal also minimizes and erases that those of us who cannot function like a fully healthy person need accommodations to live well. I compare it to when white people say, I don't see color. We need to see color because the racism that is baked into our institutions and society certainly sees it just fine. Similarly, we need to be able to see the people who can't meet the bar of normal so they can be cared for. Otherwise, we'll just get shoved into camps, back into asylums, exploitative care homes, land in jail, or any of the other horrific things that have been done so society doesn't have to look at us or accommodate us. And again, that ties back into what I said in my second statement about not trying to live like a normal person. I have to live life like a person with bipolar disorder and autism who needs to manage it. And that's what I remind myself of when I don't want to do the work that goes into staying balanced. Let's move on to 4. Everything is going to be okay. I make it a point to never tell anyone that everything is going to be okay, because I'm not a fan of false hope. I think it's devastatingly detrimental to the hopeless when they realize that hope is false. Life isn't a storybook where all the ends are neatly tied up, resolved, and everyone lives happily ever after. Because you know what? Sometimes it's not going to be okay. Sometimes things get fantastically worse. They could take a long, long time before you start feeling better. It may take multiple tries of medication, multiple trips to rehab, multiple therapists or psychologists, multiple anything before you find something that works for you. That is reality. Now, personally, I've been on no fewer than a dozen different psych meds and had just as many doctors and therapists since I was diagnosed 17 years ago. Some things worked for a while and then stopped, some never worked at all, and some things made the environment of my brain fantastically worse. There have been times in my life after I've been diagnosed where it's been a struggle to even think about pulling myself out of bed. I've had bouts of depression that were so bad that I couldn't even do basic math in my head. And that's after diagnosis and therapy. But I'm still here. I remind myself that nothing lasts forever, good or bad. I endure. Maybe it'll get better, maybe it won't, but either way, I will endure. That's not to say I'll always endure with grace, because I haven't and sometimes don't, but I try to endure nonetheless. The most common language I use when trying to comfort someone goes something like, I don't know if it's going to get better or not, but these are the things I know that help me or that may lead you closer to success. I've spent a lot of time explaining to people why they need to go to a doctor or therapist and what steps I would take if I were in their position. The fact of the matter is, when you're talking to people like me, abstract promises like things will get better clearly communicate that you're either sheltered or lying. Because in either case, I now have to be extra skeptical of anything that comes from that person because they either haven't seen enough to understand how wrong they are or they're just lying and they know better. And I know. Neurotypical people have told me that it's meant to be a comforting white lie. It's not comforting. When you're hopeless and standing on the edge, there are no comforting white lies when you're trying to grab onto anything to keep from falling off. And they would know that if they've ever stood on that ledge, which points right back to my point about being sheltered. This is a situation where a lot of times people don't know what to say, or things did get better for them, so they believe it'll get better for others in a similar way. I'm not saying that these people are just being dishonest or that they're just liars or that they don't mean well. I tend to give the benefit of the doubt and lean toward the idea that people are generally trying to do the best they can. I just don't think they know any better. I don't think they understand how destructive false hope can be to someone who's hopeless. I've seen so many people who try to be kind, understanding, and supportive, but no one really teaches you how to do it. And so they say things like things will get better. They may or they may not. Or alternatively, they may get worse before they get better, like when you're going through therapy. As you go through therapy, it's common to get worse before you get better when you start shining a light into the shadowy corners of your brain. You go in, you often get worse for a bit, then start getting better as you process and resolve the trauma. But that's an entirely different conversation. So let's move on to the fifth and biggest comforting lie. Everything happens for a reason. Yes, everything does happen for a reason. And that reason is that life is loosely organized chaos, and not a single person is somehow above catching it straight when it comes to suffering. No one is above making bad decisions, falling victim to a clever manipulation, or being victimized by someone that sets their sights on you. No one's above getting injured or sick, or experiencing a devastating circumstance in their life. Why are some people sick? Why do kids get these illnesses? And because these physical bodies we have are unique machines, and like any machine, they can be a dysfunctional pile of shit. Or alternatively, they can become severely damaged while they're in use. Senior citizen to infant, it doesn't matter. That also happens to be why I dislike the phrase work like a machine, the implication that a person works without rest. You can tell whoever came up with that phrase has never worked with machinery before. Because do you know what happens when you don't take a machine down for regular maintenance? It breaks down in spectacularly expensive ways. Your body and brain are no different. Then, sometimes, you just get hit with some random circumstances that you have no control over. I know that there are a lot of people out there who find comfort in the idea that there is some sort of divine plan, that God wouldn't give you more than you can handle, or that everything is predestined to happen. I just can't believe that. Not after seeing over and over and over how much harm and damage people suffer every day for no real reason at all. What possible reason could there be for someone to be born sexually attracted to infants, or for sadists who cause suffering for their own gratification, or for the trauma left behind by sexual violence and more? If that's God's plan, then he needs a new one because it sucks. He needs a plan that doesn't feed innocent people who can't defend themselves into a wood chipper. I spent a lot of time in my life asking why me, as I lamented how unfair I felt my situation in my life had been. Or rather, how they had felt for me. Most of my mentality around my struggles changed when I started asking, why not me? What makes me so special that I'm somehow above struggle or suffering? The answer is nothing. Nothing does, because that's just the way life goes sometimes. Instead, I looked for my own gratitude for my own experiences, to have survived this long in this life that I have. I'm grateful that my suicide attempts weren't successful, and my various traumas in life didn't break me in ways I couldn't put back together with the help of therapy. I'm grateful that I managed to get access to the resources and support I needed to actually make a strong recovery. I'm grateful for the many people that helped me along the way in the many different situations they did when they didn't have to. For a long time, I never thought I could have that kind of chance to have gratitude. Did all this happen for a reason? Yes. And the reason is that I'm a human being, and humans go through ugly shit in their life. I choose to give it meaning by doing something with it, but that may not be the right choice for you or your loved ones. In fact, that may be the wrong choice for you. But whatever you believe or whatever choices you made, you did not deserve whatever suffering life dealt you. Sometimes the best we can do isn't all that good, and that's okay. And if that happens, it's okay to rest for a bit. Then get back to the business of living this life after some rest. Now, personally, I don't think we need any more comforting lies. I think we need better truths that will help us prepare for the problems we might face and how to endure them. I think we need better access to support and resources from fairly paid professionals who don't have to work 3 jobs to make ends meet. That way, more of us can build a life worth living. Thank you for spending your time with me. Don't forget to hit follow and share this with someone that you think it might help. do consider leaving an honest rating review on your platform of choice. It helps me reach more people. Thank you.